guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is exclusively about the WobbleHead. Now you seen the video yesterday, a little sneak preview. This is the WobbleHead. Let me try to see if I can't get it where you can see it. That is actually the shape of the WobbleHead. And always want to put that on a clip or an O-ring, because it does come through the water like this and it will create twist in your line if you do not have it on a clip. I prefer a clip. Some people use an O-ring, but I'm telling you I prefer a clip. The second key important part of this is your worm. I tend to stick to 3 or 4 different color worms. Catopola, which is a black and yellow type worm. Natural, which is probably the most popular color worm. And then I use purple red tail. I have some in the box, but I'm not going to get them out. The most critical and important feature of all when you're fishing with a WobbleHead, though, is this. You could throw it on mono, you could throw it on fluorocarbon, whatever your preference is. I prefer braid for most everything. The most critical, important part of it is this. A slow gear ratio reel. Needs to be 5.1 or even lower if you can find it. That's number one. Number two, and there will be some debate on this, but number two, I use a 6'6". If I could find a 6-foot rod, I would use a 6-foot rod, fiberglass rod. Sensitivity is not your friend when you're fishing with a WobbleHead. You want the least sensitive thing you can get, because when you hit it, you need to hesitate. You don't need to hit it and then boom, set the hook. You'll miss 90% of the fish, because what happens is as the bait's coming through the water like this, they'll come up from behind it and they bite, and then they chomp again. The big ones, the real big ones, will grab the whole thing, but as a whole, your smaller fish, even 3-4 pounds, will come up behind it and then grab again. So a lot of times when you feel the bite, you want to drop some slack to them, reel down, and then set the hook. You don't have to get in a hurry. The fiberglass rod will allow the sensitivity to be taken away. Therefore, it gives the fish time to get the bait into his mouth. And I know people are going to say, oh, he ain't got no arms and hands. You're right. He only has a mouth. But a lot of times they won't get the whole thing, so you need to give them time. There's no rush. Once he bites it, he's got it. And if you mess around and he catches you on a straight, taut line, you're going to miss him. You will not get hardly ever, maybe one time in my life, I ever throwed back and caught a fish again after missing it on a WobbleHead. Usually when you get a bite, it's over. So you need to have perfect technique. And the other part is how you work it. And let's check out this video right now of how you actually work it. All right, what we're going to talk about today is, and I'm using fluorescent line. I got it painted black there the last little bit. We're going to talk about the proper way to fish the WobbleHead. As you can see, it's just the metal. Always use a clip. You don't have to use a clip. You can use the O-ring, but you have to use some kind of way right here and it prevents line twist. Now, secondly, when you thread your worm on, must be perfectly straight. Go right to the bottom of this right here. But the key to a WobbleHead is a long cast. And the reason it's a long cast is when you're reeling it, you have to use a very slow retrieve. Now, there's 2 or 3 things that you need to note on this cast. Let me show you. As I make a long cast, notice the bow in my line. See how there's a bow? That is number one, because when a fish hits this, you have to give them some slack. You cannot just set the hook as you would, say, on a spinnerbait or other baits. You have to give them slack. Secondly, as I'm reeling, notice, and I'll do it again. All right, slack in my line. Notice as I'm getting closer, I'm dropping the rod tip. Dropping the rod tip keeps the bait down, number one. And then number two, it keeps the slack in the line. The slack in the line is imperative. You cannot fish without the slack in the line. If you don't have slack in the line, you'll miss 90% of the fish that bite this thing. And you're gonna get a lot of bites. You're gonna get a lot of bites. This will catch numbers, catches big fish, but it'll also catch numbers. These shallow flats in the summertime that are adjacent to deep water are killer. If you see a brush pile in the water, killer. I mean, it just drop. See the slack? You can see the bow. That's what the yellow line's for, where you can see the bow. Now I'm dropping it down and working it down. As it's getting closer, I'm steadily dropping. Now, if I were to get a bite, you have to feel like you throw slack to the fish. That way he can get it. And I know some people will say, he ain't got no hands, he ain't got no feet. When he bites it, he's got it. You're right, he does. He's got it. Right back here by this tail. He'll bite once a lot of times and then bite the second time to get the whole thing in his mouth. If you set the hook initially, because it's coming away, it's swimming away, he'll come up from behind it and bite the tail. If you set the hook, you'll rip the worm off. You lose so many worms and make your head, you'll just get frustrated with it. And that is why you must always give him slack. You have to let him get it. You don't have to give him a rush. I mean, there's no rush in this thing. This is take your time. Now, thirdly, and I want to see if we can see this. All right, I'm going to show you what it looks like in the water. That's what it looks like. It looks like a snake. And you think, my God, that ain't catch nothing. Man, if you don't know. I could go up north where they have those huge, expansive grass flats. And people throw spinner baits and all those other things, and those things are great. But I've caught them from Lake Fork, Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, all the swampy waters around here. This bait is an absolute killer when it comes to catching summertime bass as they get lethargic and kind of like suspending out over open water, flats, and things like that. Oh my God, that was 2 casts after I just gave the little instruction. I don't know how big he is. Oh, it's a good fish. That's a good fish. Oh yeah. Let me tell you. Literally, I'm giving the instructions right over there, and then you come up with this right here. Folks, I don't know what else to tell you about a wobblehead. Let me make sure I've got this in the screen. I don't know what else to tell you. That's a good fish. That's a 2.5 pound fish in the summertime. Show you something else too. This fish has been caught before. There's a hook mark there and a hook mark there. So cool. Beautiful. A little old chunky sucker too. All right. Give me a little slack there. Very important when you go into this thing. This is a WobbleHead Pro. They have a regular WobbleHead that has a smaller hook, lighter wire hook. It doesn't stay as deep. This has a little weight, gets a little deeper. This bait is very hard to keep down. That's why you have to use the technique that I'll tell you about. And you want to go in. When you come out, before you do anything, you want to come out and make sure you come out right in the middle. See how I come out right in the middle? There. And when you thread it up, right to the middle right there. Right to the middle. Now, took a look at it in the water. Looks great. All right, let's go back to catching fish. I don't know what. All right, guys, that's your complete wobblehead setup. One of the best summertime lures. It's just amazing. A lot of times I'll throw it in the place of a topwater. A lot of people won't throw buzz baits or walking bait. I'll throw this in place of a topwater in the summertime, especially those because I seem to catch more fish on it. Top water blow-ups in the summertime, you can miss a lot. They're fun, they're action-packed, but you can miss a lot. You don't miss as many on this. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I got some sad news to tell you. I have decided no more Quest for Fives. They're just so difficult to edit, and they take so much time to go through for 300 or 400 views. I mean, it takes me sometimes, I mean, a 30-minute class takes 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. Some of them take 2 weeks, especially a week with the double cameras and the triple cameras. So guys, there'll be no more Quest for Fives. Unfortunately, I will just use the fish catches to illustrate the points that I'm making. Guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and please ring that bell.